On a sunny afternoon, Victoria sat in her father's big, luxurious sitting room. The chandelier sparkled above them like stars in the sky. Soft music played in the background as she and her best friends, Linda and Sandra, sat on the shiny leather couch, sipping fresh juice and giggling. "I think I have found someone I like," Victoria said. "I saw him just once, but I can't stop thinking about him." "Who?" Sandra asked, looking surprised. "Here's a bricklayer," Victoria whispered, her heart beating fast. Linda almost choked on her juice. "Oh, wait, a what? A bricklayer?" Sandra shouted, looking shocked. "You mean those men who carry cement and climb scaffoldings?" "Yes," Victoria said, smiling. "Well, his name is Desmond." "Are you being serious right now?" Linda asked, looking shocked. "You just came back from Canada with a master's degree. Your dad owns one of the biggest companies in the country, and you're falling for a bricklayer." Victoria leaned back on the couch, still smiling. "He's different. I don't know how to explain it. I saw him at the site beside our office building. He was carrying bricks. Something inside me said, 'Talk to him.' I didn't, but I want to." Sandra shook her head. "Don't do this to yourself. What will your father say?" Victoria sighed. Her father, Chief Maxwell, was a strict businessman who believed in status and class. She had just returned from Canada as he wished to help run the family business. But Victoria's heart was dancing in another direction. Later that night, as she lay in her soft bed covered with white sheets, she couldn't sleep. Her mind kept going back to Desmond. His strong arms, the way he moved, the sweat on his face, and most of all, the way he smiled as he helped his fellow workers. "I want to know him," she whispered to herself, even if just as a friend. For days, Victoria sat in her office at the top floor of Maxwell Towers, looking down at the construction site close to her office. Every day she saw him mixing cement, lifting bricks, climbing scaffoldings. His shirt was always soaked with sweat, his hands rough, but his face never lost its smile. She watched him through her window like someone watching a movie. Her heart beat faster every time she saw him help another worker or laugh at something small. She even knew the exact time he arrived, 7:15 a.m. sharp. He never came late. But even with all the butterflies in her stomach, Victoria was scared. Scared of her father, scared of her family name, and scared of getting her heart broken. "Victoria, this isn't a fairy tale," Sandra warned, one evening as they lounged by the pool. "This is real life. What if he's not who you think he is?" Linda agreed. "You have everything. He has nothing. You're not from the same world." Victoria didn't argue. She just nodded and smiled. But deep inside, her heart whispered, "He's different." Victoria became a spy. She monitored Desmond. She knew he always bought food at a small brewer called Mama Kelly's Kitchen every Thursday evening after work. She knew his favorite meal was jollof rice and fish. She followed him home once and found out he lived in a small two-room apartment with his sisters. He's the eldest and the only son. He has three younger sisters. No father, no mother. She had died when Desmond was just 9. Since then, Desmond had become everything to his sisters, their protector, provider, and teacher. He worked not just as a bricklayer. He washed cars early Saturday mornings. He never thought of himself. He didn't date. He didn't party. His life was all about his sisters Amaka, Chisom, and Favor. Victoria admired him even more. That night, she sat up in her bed drafting a plan. She wanted him to meet her as a regular girl. She circled Thursday on her calendar. That was the day she planned to meet him. Thursday came. Victoria left her office at exactly 5:40 p.m., threw on a plain pink top and old jeans, tied her hair up in a bun, and took a taxi to Mama Kelly's kitchen. Her heart was racing. Her palms were sweaty. She had never done anything like this before. She stood in the line. The smell of hot stew and fried plantain filled the air. Her stomach growled, but not from hunger. And then there he was, Desmond, standing right in front of her in line. Tall, tired, but still with that calm face. She looked down, pretending to check her phone, but when he turned and gave her a quick smile, she almost forgot how to breathe. He bought his food, jollof rice and fish, just like always. Then he moved to an empty wooden table in the corner. Victoria gathered her courage. She bought her food and, without asking, walked over and sat across from him. "Hi," she said, nervous but smiling. Desmond looked surprised, but he smiled back. "Hi." For a few seconds, they ate in silence. Then Victoria spoke. The rain this morning was too much. Desmond laughed. I waited and waited, but it refused to stop. I had to enter the rain like that and go to work. No umbrella, she gasped. He shook his head, wiping his mouth with a tissue. I've been meaning to buy one, but there's always something more important to do. Victoria blinked. This man is really something else, she thought. Just then, a little boy with dirty clothes walked up to their table and tapped Desmond gently on the shoulder. Uncle, I'm hungry. Desmond didn't even think twice. He stood up, walked back to Mama Kelly, paid for a plate of food, and brought it to the boy with water. Victoria watched. Her heart swelled. Why did you do that? She asked softly when he returned. Desmond shrugged. I know what hunger feels like. I felt it before. If I can help, I will. She didn't know what to say, and in that moment, Victoria realized something deep. Desmond had nothing, yet he gave everything, and that was more powerful than all the money her family had. The following Thursday, Victoria returned to Mama Kelly's kitchen. This time, Desmond recognized her immediately and smiled. They sat on the same seat, and from that day, it became their little tradition. Every Thursday evening, they met. They talked. Victoria never mentioned anything about her background. She told him her name was Vicky and that she worked with a small business near the construction site. Desmond was easy to talk to. He listened, he laughed, and he never tried to impress her with big words or fake stories. He was just real. But each time she left him and returned home to the Grand Maxwell mansion with its glowing lights and silent hallways, her guilt grew. She knew she was hiding too much, but she was afraid that if Desmond ever found out who she really was, he would push her away. Victoria's lies grew longer. She got herself a small phone, which she texted Desmond with. But there was something about Desmond that made her wish she didn't have to lie. The way he smiled, the way he talked about his sisters, the way his eyes lit up when he spoke about his dream of one day building a house for his family. Every Thursday at Mama Kelly's kitchen became Victoria's favorite time of the week. There was something different about sitting on a plastic chair under the noisy zinc roof, eating hatamala with a guy like Desmond, something that felt real. For once, nobody cared about the name Maxwell or what country she studied in. Desmond made her laugh. Why do you always order ewedu? He teased one evening, watching her struggle with a slippery soup. Victoria rolled her eyes. Mind your business, Joe of King. Desmond grinned. Ah, so you've crowned me the king. Finally. I've been waiting for this moment all my life. Relax. You're the only king of jollof rice in this book, she said, laughing. He leaned closer, whispering, still better than being CEO of boring soup like egusi. Victoria gasped. Take that back. Egusi is elite. Desmond held his hands up. I said what I said. They burst into laughter, the kind Victoria never had at dinner parties or board meetings. She had known Desmond for just few weeks, but around him, she could breathe. No one asked when she was getting married. No one is talking about business projects. No pressure to act perfect with Desmond. She was just Vicky, the girl who didn't mind licking her fingers after suya, who could talk about Nollywood movies and laugh until her belly hurt. One evening after dinner, Desmond wiped his hands and said, You're not like other girls who come here. Most of them don't even greet Mama Kelly. But you help her clear plates sometimes. Victoria shrugged. Mama Kelly gave me extra meat once. That's enough for me to sweep this whole buka if she asks. Desmond laughed so hard he choked on water. But while Victoria laughed on the outside, inside she was nervous. Every Thursday night after their meal, she would walk past his street just to see if his light was on. She'd smile quietly, knowing he was probably inside, gisting with his sisters or fixing a broken fan. She had learned so much about him without even asking. She knew he loved beans, but hated plantain. She knew he could fix almost anything, including radios and old fans. She knew his youngest sister, Favor, loved plantain. Victoria was falling for Desmond, but the fear grew with her feelings. What if he found out who she really was? Would he hate her? Would he think she was playing a game? That was the thought in her mind. Desmond, on the other hand, has begun to fall for her. He believes Vicky is smart, friendly, and fun to be with. But sometimes something about her didn't add up. She had clean, soft hands. Her English sounded smooth, too smooth. And one day, when a car drove past and splashed water on her, she didn't hiss. She just laughed and said, "Wow, Lagos drivers really wants to baptize me today." Desmond looked surprised. "Who says stuff like that?" Victoria laughed. Desmond just shook his head and smiled. "You craze small." After 3 weeks of friendship, Victoria sat in her car one night after dinner and whispered to herself, "I have to tell him, not everything, but something." She had never felt this way before. Desmond wasn't like any of the rich boys she met in Canada or the ones her aunties introduced her to. He had no car, no fancy clothes, but he had something she couldn't ignore: a big heart and a pure spirit. One Thursday, as they sat down to eat, it started raining heavily. Victoria looked at him and asked softly, "If you could do anything in the world right now, what would it be?" Desmond smiled. "Honestly, take my sisters out of this flooded area and put them somewhere dry, warm, and safe." Victoria looked at him, heart pounding. She knew that was the moment. She wanted to tell him, "I can help. I can do more. I'm not who you think I am." But she couldn't risk it. She was already in love with him. Victoria and Desmond were now inseparable. They texted each other like teenagers, from good morning messages to random jokes at midnight. She would laugh so hard at his voice notes that her cheeks would hurt. Desmond, on the other hand, now walked around like a man who had just won lottery. "Brother Desmond, why you dey shine teeth like fried plantain?" his younger sister favorite tease. Desmond laughed. "Leave me, you people won't understand." But they did. His sisters noticed how he sang while fetching water and how he smiled at his phone. Meanwhile, Sandra and Linda were angry. Victoria had canceled brunches and several spa appointments. The final straw came when she canceled their dinner for the second time that week. "She's with that guy again, isn't she?" Linda hissed. Victoria had no time for her friends, but it all came crashing down when Chief Maxwell returned from a business trip. Expecting to find Victoria at her desk, he brushed off her absence until Sandra and Linda walked in confused. "Wait, she's not here?" Linda asked. Chief Maxwell narrowed his eyes. "What do you mean? Are you girls not supposed to be together?" he asked Sandra. "Oh, yes. She just texted she's already at the spa waiting for us." The next day, Sandra and Linda confronted Victoria. "Are you really in love with an ordinary bricklayer?" Sandra asked. Linda folded her arms. "Victoria, have you lost your mind? Is he using jazz on you because this is not normal?" Victoria said nothing. She just stared at them angrily and walked out. "She's gone mad," Linda whispered. "Totally gone." Later that evening, her two friends marched straight to Chief Maxwell and told him all that had been going on. Angry and embarrassed, Chief Maxwell drove himself to Mama Kelly's kitchen that Thursday. What he saw nearly gave him a heart attack. Victoria was sitting with Desmond laughing over hot mala, dressed in jeans and a plain t-shirt. "Victoria!" he shouted. She looked up startled. "Dad," he glanced at her outfit.
"What are you wearing and what are you doing here?" Desmond stood slowly, confused. Victoria's face fell. "Dad, please, I can explain." The ride home was silent, but the house was not. Standing in their luxurious sitting room, Chief Maxwell exploded. "You love who? A bricklayer. After all I've done for you, I sent you to the best schools in the world. And this is what you reward me with." Victoria was trembling. "Daddy, Desmond is not just a bricklayer. He's kind. He's good. Shut up," he shouted. "Look at your friends. Sandra is married to a senator's son. Linda is married to a tech guru. But you want to settle down with a bricklayer. You want to bring me shame." Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "I'm in love with him."
The air in the Maxwell mansion was thick with tension. Victoria stood in the center of the luxurious sitting room, her eyes red from tears, while Chief Maxwell paced back and forth, his face a storm of anger and disbelief. The chandelier above them cast sharp shadows, making the room feel colder than usual. Victoria's hands trembled, but her voice was steady. "Dad, I know you're upset, but Desmond is more than what you see. He's honest, hardworking, and he cares about people in a way I've never seen before. Chief Maxwell stopped pacing and glared at her. Honest? Hardworking? Victoria, you're talking about a man who carries cement for a living. You think that's enough to stand beside a Maxwell? You're throwing away everything I built for this family. His voice boomed, shaking the glassware on the nearby table. Victoria took a deep breath, her heart pounding. It's not about money or status, Dad. It's about who he is. He's not like the men you want me to marry. He doesn't care about our name or our wealth. He sees me for me, not for what I represent. Her father scoffed, waving a hand dismissively. You're naive, Victoria. This boy is probably after your money. You think he doesn't know who you are? You think he's not playing you? No, Dad. Victoria's voice rose, surprising even herself. He doesn't know who I am. I've been hiding it from him because I wanted him to like me for me, not for the Maxwell name. And he does. He thinks I'm just Vicky, a regular girl who works at a small business. Chief Maxwell's eyes narrowed. You've been lying to him? And you think that's love? Deceiving him? Victoria's shoulders slumped, guilt washing over her. I didn't mean to lie. I was scared. Scared he wouldn't want me if he knew the truth. But I'm going to tell him. I have to. Her father shook his head, his voice cold. You will not see that boy again. You're a Maxwell, and you will act like one. Tomorrow, you're coming with me to a meeting with the Adetokumbo family. Their son, Tunda, is a perfect match. This nonsense ends now. Victoria's heart sank, but she didn't argue. She knew her father's temper, and pushing further would only make things worse. She nodded silently and retreated to her room, where she collapsed onto her bed, tears soaking her pillow. Her phone buzzed with a message from Desmond. Vicky, you okay? You left so fast tonight. Hope I didn't say something wrong. She stared at the screen, her thumb hovering over the keyboard. She wanted to tell him everything, but the weight of her father's words pressed down on her. Instead, she typed, I'm fine. Just tired. Talk tomorrow? She hit send, her chest tight with guilt. The next day, Victoria went through the motions at Maxwell Towers, her mind elsewhere. She avoided the window overlooking the construction site, afraid of catching a glimpse of Desmond. But her heart betrayed her, and by midday, she found herself standing by the glass, watching him lift bricks with the same steady rhythm, his smile faint but present. She knew she couldn't keep lying to him. She had to come clean, even if it meant losing him. That evening, Victoria slipped out of the house before her father could drag her to the Adetokumbo meeting. She drove to Mama Kelly's kitchen, her heart racing. Desmond was already there, sitting at their usual table, a plate of jollof rice and fish in front of him. When he saw her, his face lit up, but his smile faltered when he noticed her tense expression. Vicky, what's wrong? He asked, setting down his spoon. Victoria sat across from him, her hands clasped tightly. Desmond, I need to tell you something big. She took a shaky breath. My name isn't just Vicky. It's Victoria Maxwell. My father owns Maxwell Towers, the building next to your construction site. I'm not a regular girl who works at a small business. I've been lying to you, and I'm so sorry. Desmond's eyes widened, and for a moment he was silent. Victoria's heart sank, expecting him to stand up and walk away, but instead he leaned back, his expression unreadable. Maxwell Towers. That's... Wow, you're that Maxwell. She nodded, tears welling up. I didn't tell you because I was afraid you'd treat me differently. I wanted you to like me for me, not for my family's money or name. But I was wrong to lie. I understand if you're angry. Desmond ran a hand over his face, processing her words. I'm not angry, Vicky. Victoria. I'm just surprised. I mean, you're sitting here eating amala with me, under a zinc roof, and you're basically royalty. He chuckled softly, shaking his head. But you know what? It doesn't change how I see you. You're still the girl who laughs at my bad jokes and helps Mama Kelly clear plates. Victoria's tears spilled over, but this time they were tears of relief. You don't hate me. Desmond reached across the table, his rough hand gently covering hers. I like you, Victoria. Not because of your name or your money, because of you. But you've got to be honest with me from now on, okay? Victoria's confession lifted a weight off her shoulders, but the battle was far from over. Chief Maxwell was relentless. The next morning, he summoned her to his office, where Tunde Adetokunbo, a polished young man in a tailored suit, waited with a charming smile. Victoria, Tunde is here to discuss a potential partnership between our families, Chief Maxwell said, his tone leaving no room for argument. You two should get to know each other. Victoria forced a smile, her mind racing. She played along during the meeting, nodding politely as Tunde spoke about his tech startup and his family's investments. But her thoughts were with Desmond, with the promise she'd made to be honest. She couldn't keep living a double life. That evening, she texted Desmond, asking him to meet her at a quiet park near Mama Kelly's kitchen. When he arrived, she was already there, sitting on a bench under a mango tree. The air was cool, and the stars were just beginning to peek through the dusk. Desmond, I told you the truth about me, but there's more you need to know, she began, her voice steady but nervous. My father wants me to marry someone else, someone from a wealthy family. He doesn't approve of us. He thinks you're beneath me. Desmond's jaw tightened, but he didn't look away, understanding. I figured as much. A girl like you, with a father like that. I'm not surprised. But what do you want, Victoria? She met his gaze, her heart swelling with certainty. I want you. I want us. I don't care about my father's money or his expectations, but I need you to know what we're up against. He's powerful, Desmond. He won't make this easy. Desmond nodded, his expression serious. I'm not afraid of hard work, Victoria. I've been fighting for everything my whole life. If you're in, I'm in. But I need to know you're sure. I'm sure, she said, her voice firm. I've never been more sure of anything. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of their decision settling over them. Then Desmond smiled, his eyes softening. You know, my sisters would love you. Especially Favor. She'd probably make you eat plantain just to mess with you. Victoria laughed, the tension easing. I'd eat all the plantain in the world for you. Over the next few weeks, Victoria and Desmond grew even closer. They met in secret, stealing moments at Mama Kelly's kitchen or the park. Victoria introduced herself to Desmond's sisters, who welcomed her with open arms. Amaka, the eldest, teased Desmond mercilessly about his fancy girlfriend, while Chisom and Favor begged her to tell them stories about Canada. For the first time, Victoria felt like she belonged somewhere that wasn't defined by her last name. But the secrecy couldn't last. Sandra and Linda, still furious about Victoria's choices, kept feeding Chief Maxwell information. One evening, as Victoria and Desmond walked hand in hand near his apartment, a sleek black car pulled up beside them. Chief Maxwell stepped out, his face like thunder. Victoria, get in the car. Now, he ordered. Desmond stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. Sir, with all due respect, she's not a child. She can make her own choices. Chief Maxwell's eyes blazed. You dare speak to me? Do you know who I am? I know exactly who you are, Desmond replied, unflinching. And I know who Victoria is. She's the woman I love, and I'll fight for her, no matter what you think of me. Victoria's heart swelled with pride, but fear gripped her as her father's face darkened. This is your last warning, Victoria, he said. End this, or I'll make sure you regret it. The ultimatum hung over Victoria like a storm cloud. She knew her father wasn't bluffing. He could cut her off, freeze her accounts, or worse, make life difficult for Desmond. But she also knew she couldn't give up on the man who had shown her what real love felt like. The next day, Victoria made a bold decision. She went to Maxwell Towers and marched into her father's office. Dad, we need to talk, she said, closing the door behind her. Chief Maxwell looked up from his desk, his expression cold. Coldly, if this is about that bricklayer, save your breath. Firmly, it's about me, Victoria said, standing tall, resolute. I spent my whole life trying to make you proud, but I'm done living for your approval. I love Desmond, and I'm not giving him up. If you can't accept that, then you're the one pushing me away, not him." Her father stared at her, stunned by her defiance. For the first time, Victoria saw a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. Surprised. "You throw away everything for him?" he asked, confidently. "I'm not throwing anything away," she said, earnest. "I'm choosing happiness. And if you really love me, you'll want that for me too." The room was silent for a long moment. Then, to Victoria's surprise, Chief Maxwell sighed and leaned back in his chair. "Resigned. You're stubborn, just like your mother was," he said softly, thoughtful. "She'd have liked this boy, you know. She always said a man's worth isn't in his wallet, but in his heart." Victoria's eyes widened. Her mother, who had passed away when she was young, was rarely mentioned. "Then why can't you see that in Desmond?" she asked. Chief Maxwell rubbed his temples, looking tired. "I just want what's best for you. I see men take advantage of women like you." Concerned. "I don't want you hurt." "Ernest, then trust me," Victoria said. "Give Desmond a chance. Meet him. Talk to him. You'll see what I see." Reluctantly, Chief Maxwell agreed to meet Desmond. The following Sunday, Desmond arrived at the Maxwell mansion, dressed in his best shirt and trousers, his nerves barely hidden behind his calm smile. Victoria's heart raced as she introduced him to her father. The meeting was tense at first. Chief Maxwell grilled Desmond about his work, his family, and his intentions, but Desmond answered every question with honesty and respect, never once faltering. He spoke about his sisters, his dreams, and his love for Victoria. Slowly, Chief Maxwell's stern expression softened, thoughtful. "You're not what I expected," he admitted finally. "Relieved, but I can see you care about my daughter. That's something." Over the next few months, Chief Maxwell began to warm to Desmond. He invited him to family dinners, where Desmond charmed everyone with his humility and quick wit. Victoria's friends, Sandra and Linda, eventually came around too, apologizing for their harsh words after seeing how happy Victoria was. Chief Maxwell even offered Desmond a job at Maxwell Towers, not as a bricklayer, but in the company's construction management division, recognizing his work ethic and potential. Desmond accepted, but only on the condition that he could still visit Mama Kelly's kitchen every Thursday. One evening, under the same mango tree in the park where they'd had so many heart-to-heart talks, Desmond took Victoria's hand. Huckley, nervous. "Vicky, Victoria," he said with a grin. "I don't have much, but I have you, and that's more than enough. Sincere. Will you marry me?" Tears of joy streamed down Victoria's face as she nodded, sobbing, joyful. "Yes, Desmond. Yes." They married in a beautiful ceremony, blending the grandeur of the Maxwell name with the warmth of Desmond's family. Mama Kelly catered the reception, serving jollof rice and fish to everyone's delight. Chief Maxwell gave a heartfelt speech, admitting he'd been wrong and praising Desmond's heart. Amaka Chisom and Favor danced with Victoria, calling her sister and teasing her about her love for egusi soup. As Victoria and Desmond stood together, hand in hand, under the stars, she knew she'd found her home, not in a mansion or a title, but in the love they shared. And every Thursday, they returned to Mama Kelly's kitchen, sitting at their usual table, laughing over jollof rice and dreaming of their future together.